and alter the chair. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I will entertain a motion on the minutes for our last planning commission on the 14th.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 14th, 2021.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by Robert Perry, second by Michael Fortune. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We have an opportunity for anyone who might like to speak on issues that are under the purview of the Planning Commission. And if you're here to speak about a specific item, hopefully you signed up to say that you wanted to speak. If you didn't sign the one that said I want to speak, you need to do that. But public comment is for anything but the issues that are on the agenda. So you want to speak on another item?
No.
Oh.
Do I need to sign up since I'm on item 2? Or
Yeah, you'll need to sign over here.
Yeah.
No, he's the applicant.
the applicant?
He's the applicant.
He represents the applicant.
Oh, okay. Good, no, you don't. We're going to call you up regardless. Okay. So no one here to speak about any other item. Okay. We will close the public comment portion of the meeting. I'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting. And Scarlett, I think I'll ask you if you would come up and give us some information on it. The Planning Commission will take comment and questions regarding the application to rezone parcel 02-101-0001 located in the general area of Sarah Street, 300 North, currently zoned as single family large, with a request that it be rezoned to single family traditional. So do we have anyone here other than Scarlett to speak about this issue? Okay, let's let Scarlett do her thing and then you're next. Okay. Not right yet. The parcel's only yours, so you can see it.
Yeah, pull that up. Hold on.
This property is currently zoned single family large. The development is anticipating single family detached homes. But they are asking for a change from single family large to single family traditional. In a statement provided by the applicant, they said the request is to rezone all 57.54 acres of parcel 02-101-0001 from single family large to single family traditional. The parcel has single family traditional to the north, south, and west on the adjacent parcels. The rezone would be consistent with other properties in the area. With current housing and land prices, it is not realistic to develop half-acre lots as it is currently zoned. This rezone is to provide lots at a more reasonable price. The developer does intend to have larger lots, those larger than the minimum of 12,000 square feet. This property also has some development challenges with it. As the development proceeds, that's when we will really deal with quite a few with the sensitive land areas. But it does have steep slopes, landslide, wildfire areas. It's near an ag protection area. It's also near an ag protection buffer. And then there is also Spring Creek Water Company has a canal that also impacts this area a little bit. The biggest differences between single family large and single family traditional is in the lot sizing. Most of the conditional and permitted uses in the zones are very similar. The lot sizing is a little bit different though. Single family large, the minimum lot size is 20,500. But one thing to keep in mind with single family large, they can do what's called flexible lot sizing. Flexible lot sizing allows them to have lots less than the 20,500. They can go, but no lot could be less than 12,000 square feet. They cannot increase the density with that single family, or excuse me, with the flexible lot sizing. It's there so that they can work around some of the challenges with some of the sensitive areas. And that's in the ordinance. That's for any property, not just specific to this one. The minimum lot width measured at the setback line is 100 feet in single family large. It's 95 feet in single family traditional. The maximum units per acre, excluding right of way and infrastructure, is 2.13 units per acre in single family large. It's 3.75 in single family traditional. And bear in mind, these things that I'm talking about are, except for the units per acre, these others are all minimums. They certainly can exceed them. So in single family traditional, they can certainly have lots much larger than 12,000 square feet should they choose to do so. The same thing in single family large. The setbacks for both zones are identical. The front yard setback is 20 feet. The side yard setback on a street is 20 feet. The side yard setback for the interior lot or the interior side is 10 feet, and the rear yards are 15 feet in both zones. So really the biggest difference is the actual lot size and the density. So, and the only condition that staff would see at this point in time is that the applicant can continue to meet all applicable city, state, and federal laws, codes, rules. Approval by the city of any application submitted or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to the local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. And we have not done a thorough review on any development plan at this point in time, because until we know which zone that plan has to meet, we don't review them until we know what zone we're dealing with. So,
Thank you,
any
Scotty.
questions from anyone? All right, thank you.
You're on.
Hi.
Tell us your name.
Clay Schaffner.
Schaffner.
Schaffner, yes. So I'm just here representing Stan Chicken Properties, and just to kind of talk as a proponent of the rezoning. This would afford us the opportunity to fit more homes into this property, and so given the current housing market, as she kind of stated, we would be able to provide more new homes, which is highly necessary, and it wouldn't be anything outside the ordinary of the surrounding area. So I'm just, yeah.
Okay. All right. So stand by if there's something you need to answer from people who might have some questions, people from the audience. We can have the
Thank you.
answers. Thank you. Okay, is there anyone here that wants to speak on this particular subject? Kind of a quiet group. Remember that when it comes to what you want to talk about, right? Okay, all right. So not having any more comments, we will move to item number 2. Planning Commission will take comments and questions regarding the application to rezone parcel 02-113-0049 located in the general area of 750 South, 500 East, currently zoned as agricultural, with the request that it be zoned to single-family residential. Okay, so let's start it.
Okay. Mine's got to move a little bit to the south, and then you can see this piece on the monitor as well. As was stated in the agenda title, the applicant is requesting to rezone this parcel from agriculture to single-family residential. In a statement provided by the applicant, says the applicant requests on behalf of the owners rezone of the owner's 5-acre parcel from agricultural to single-family residential zone. Owners own and reside in the home that is on the parcel and wish to rezone to single-family residential to allow lot widths on a couple of the potential future lots that would allow them to preserve and continue a large weeping willow tree. Their plan is to subdivide, or excuse me, the plan to subdivide requires them to have a certain number of lots for the subdivision to be of interest to buyers. One contract has fallen through due to lot width requirements, even though the area of prospective lots overall were well over 12,000 square feet due to the lot width requirements for 12,000 square feet zoning. A rezone to single family residential would allow the property to have a couple of lots that are narrower than the requirement for the 12,000 square foot lots, but are still spacious. So, a couple of things. The general plan framework map talks about potential conservation zones. I had some questions. I had someone asked me some questions about that. We call these out in our general plan, but we do not have anything in our city code that deals with if we require them or when to use them. We don't have any guidelines that way in the city code. I talked to our attorney about it, and he really didn't have he was working on another very time sensitive item for us. And so I told him we'd have to have this conversation at another time when he had a little bit more time. But off the top of his head, he really couldn't point me in a direction to find a lot of specifics about a potential conservation zone, just that kind of a title. But in our general plan, we define it as areas of ecological sensitivity, such as wildlife habitat, productive farmland, scenic value, steep slopes, and other environmental qualities in need of protections. Sensitive lands are protected with an easement, while development is constructed around the sensitive land. Density, housing types, and lot sizes may vary by the conservation zone type. So it does appear that it recognizes that there will be development. I did look on the county's parcel zoning viewer. There's layers on there that you can look for the wildland interface. This property is not involved in that. They do call out a couple of species of birds. This property is not involved in those areas. So as far as the wildlife habitat, the county hasn't identified this as a place for that. Not to say that there isn't wildlife up there, where all of us that live there are very familiar with many deer and other little critters that like to inhabit the area. And then the other sensitive lands, if there's slope or things like that, we deal with that through our own hazard sensitive areas in our city code. The transportation plan shows a proposed local road in this area. That would be the extension of 500 East from the existing 500 East in the Hillcrest subdivision to the existing 500 East in the Canyon View subdivision, I believe is the name of that particular one. Other than improvements, the Hillcrest Park, the Park Trails and Recreation Master Plan does not call out additional improvements in this area. The sensitive areas that we consider as non-developable, which this property doesn't have any jurisdictional wetlands, steep slope where the rise or fall of the land is equal to or exceeds 30% over a horizontal distance of 50 feet or greater, and natural waterways or open water. Then there are potentially developable land areas in our code, which talk about steep slopes where the rise or fall of the land is between 20 and 30 over a horizontal distance of 50 feet or greater. And then floodplains, critical wildlife habitat areas is identified by the Division of Wildlife Resources, which I checked, and this is not in that thing on the county's map. Geological hazard area for earthquake fault lines or area prone to debris flows, landslides, higher extreme liquefaction potential, rock falls, and rock falls as identified by the Geological Survey. Bear in mind that that doesn't mean that you can't develop in those particular areas. It just, they're called potentially developable. So we do work with developers and property owners to make sure that when they build them safely with those considerations in mind. There's also the potential for wildfire hazard areas on this particular piece of property. That potential is very, very low. The differences between the single family traditional and the single family residential zones, most of the conditional approved permitted uses are very similar. There's very few that are different. However, the single family residential zone does allow twin homes, but requires additional lot square footage. So in a single family residential zone, the minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet. If you wanted to put a twin home on a lot, you would have to have a minimum of 12,000 square feet because each half of the twin home has to have 6,000 square feet. It also each half has to meet certain setback rules, and it can't increase the density. So even though it says that single family attached homes are allowed, they are because of twin homes, but because of having to meet the additional for acreage, the frontages, a single family, a twin home also requires 47.5 feet of frontage for each twin home, where a traditional, where a residential, single family residential lot normally requires 80 feet at the setback line. So again, the differences are single family traditional, 12,000 square foot minimums, single family residential, 10,000 square foot minimums. Lot width measured at the setback line, 95 feet, and in single family residential, 80 feet, except as I noted on a twin home lot. The maximum units per acre, excluding right-of-way and infrastructure in the traditional, is 3.75. In the single family residential, it's 4.5. So you get about you could get 0.75 more in the per acre in the single family residential. The setbacks for the front, the street side, The side yard and the rear yard are exactly the same in single-family traditional and single-family residential. One other point I want to mention about the twin homes in single-family residential, the twin home lots cannot take up more than 20% of the lots. So 80% of the lots in single-family residential have to be traditional single-family homes. And then again, our condition, if this is approved, is that the applicant will meet all applicable city, state, federal laws, codes, rules. Approval by the city of any application submitted or paperwork does not relieve the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to state and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. One point I realize I missed is that the general plan anticipates that this property would be single family traditional. You can see by the little graphic that was included in the report and in the other public hearing that we had in my report, I missed saying that the general plan anticipated that that property would remain single family large. So, but again, the general plan is a guideline and you can certainly make your recommendations based on other factors as well. Any questions before I sit down? All right, thank you.
The developer here to talk about this.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Scarlett, as well.
Your name?
Andrew Lillywhite. So speaking for the developer. So like was said, the main reason for going down to the SFR zone is to allow additional width. The Kents, when they were trying to sell their property before, the developer basically moved the lot lines as close to the 12,000 limit is, or the width limit for 12,000 square foot lots as they could. I have a map I could show you of what the developer's proposed plan was. So you can kind of compare area, square footage.
And everybody needs to understand that we're only talking about zones tonight. You
Yeah,
can't
this
show
is-
pictures, but we're not voting on that part of it.
Yeah, this isn't our proposed.
Do you have it electronically that Ryan can throw it up on the screen?
I don't. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, here's we can give you one of these as well to pass around.
So if you see, I don't have it labeled for north on there here, but this is the north. That's north. So the middle nod goes at the bottom right. And the two lots in question are these two ones that the client wanted to move over this property line. The big willows right here. So they wanted to move it over, get requests from the developer, but I think they didn't want to bring up the issue of going to SFR. So we're wanting to do that to preserve that tree, and they also have a playhouse area there. We'd like to keep, or at least not have to move too far. But the willow trees, the biggest issue, and then another big issue is they have a hot tub that's kind of on the corner of that house right here, a little further out, and so the property line that the developer had proposed, the former developer, not the property owners, they proposed this line, and it was almost like you could jump into their pool from the fence, and or into their hot tub. Didn't want that. So really, that's the main reason for this alteration. You can see the proposed square footage there from the former developer was 2,100 square foot and almost 2,000 square foot lots. So scooting those over actually would still be quite a bit above the 12,000 square foot lot area. We haven't redrawn those, just we don't have the software to do it. We'll have an engineer get to that one, the development, or in the subdivision phase. Yeah, so that's the main reason.
So are you telling us that lot number 4 will be less than that? Is that what you're saying?
In width, well, I think we try to keep the 2 lot widths similar to each other, so that we don't have an extra skinny one and an extra wide one, just so that we're proportional there. So that'd be the idea on those. And then I don't know, somebody had a concern about the twin homes, that I think Scarlett kind of explained that well, that if there was to be any, it would likely be just one based on the percentage. But even at that, the way I read the code, it's not even an allowed use, because if you go to the use chart, you have the P stands for permitted use, means we don't have to go and get a conditional use permit separately. C is for conditional use, a blank is not permitted. There's a blank in the multifamily 2-unit home, 2-unit dwelling unit. And so that's one place where, to me, it looks like it's not permitted. The only place that I've found where a twin home looks like it might potentially be permitted is in the lot size or lot area requirements, where it does say under SFR lot size requirement, gives a size number there. But explicitly it says it's not permitted in the use chart. So to me, that would overrule the area requirement.
So what you're saying is you're not planning on doing twin homes?
No, we're not. We don't plan on it, and we really don't think it's permitted, even though there might be some argument for somebody there. I don't think it's a strong one. So yeah, this is the idea here. There may, like, the road could be adjusted a little bit, I think, if needed, but this is the idea. And I think sounded like we talked to a few developers, they sounded like we need at least this many lots to make it workable for anything profitable for people. So we don't see doing less being helpful. And would be good, because they're still good lot sizes for people. If you notice, I guess talk about the general plan. There's a future use map out there. So the subdivision that's below this on the south, future use for it is all SFR, even though it's currently SFE. The future use says that. Future use on this says SFT. That is advisory, and it seems appropriate where the lot size is. It's probably more than SFT to go with the SFR. But those are my main introductory statements. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me now or later.
Okay. Anybody have any questions right now? We may have as we go along.
Okay.
Thank you. Now would be the time for those of you that might want to speak about this particular issue. I'm going to limit you to 3 minutes, so that we're not here till midnight. And now would be the time, because when the commission is discussing this, unless we call you up and have a question, you won't be able to just come back up. So now's the time for you to say what you want to say. Vaughn, have you got your
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Stay tuned though, huh? Okay. Ernie? Do I need to set my timer?
Sure. No, I've got the clock there. So Ernie is 511 East, 800 South. So on that bottom corner there with the graphic, the first one off of 500 East. So sense of place was kind of what I wanted to talk about. I know when me and my wife purchased the property, there was nothing behind it, no development. Not Mr. Kent, but his daughter. I spoke with her several times. The house that adjoins it, Roy and Eleanor, who's here today, or Eleanor's here, spoke to them, and they weren't planning on developing it either. And so that was one of the big reasons we looked at buying that. And so there wouldn't be anything behind us to kind of keep that scenic view of the mountains on one side, mountains on the other side without a bunch of homes being built there. I don't really see the purpose or need of any more additional homes in that area. I understand it's the Kent's property and they got the right to with what they want, but building 8 homes, if that's what it happens to be. I know the plan that you guys have and that you passed around is an old plan that isn't the plan they're currently looking at using with the developer. So I know that can change, but it's kind of just to keep that exactly the way it was. And maybe the way it was intended for the subdivision that was built there, with that being an open area and a space, especially with our lots being at 10,000 square feet roughly, instead of being on a half an acre lot. The developers that developed our property somehow developed 10,000 square foot acre lots instead of larger lots, which they were supposed to. But keeping that size would allow us to kind of keep that area in the back. You know, there's a lot of the talk back or the setbacks from the properties and stuff like that. All our homes don't have much of a setback in the backyard. The same thing doesn't have much of a setback. You've got a, 3,000 square foot home sitting on a, less than a quarter of an acre lot. So there's not a lot of room. So being able to keep that and keep that sense of purpose and stuff in there would be the biggest concern that I have. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I have Loyal, Green. Okay. All right. Brent, Nazar.
Brant Nazer.
Oh, sorry.
No, no problem. I am a resident of the Hillcrest neighborhood as well. I just wanted to take a minute to give some of my opinions and thoughts. Kind of for me, when the main challenge that we've had to this point is there hasn't been a lot of transparency in the rezoning. The brief reads a couple
on the part of the.
No, I'm sorry.
Commission?
In the brief and the items that have come from the developer side. In the brief, it reads a couple of homes, but to me that would be plenty of room for a couple of homes to fit, even with traditional zoning or estate or higher. So.
And you're speaking of the developer or the sellers?
Well, I guess at this point it's kind of one and the same. I mean, I don't.
I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't understand if there is a developer or if there's not, to be honest with you, or if this is a previous design or not. But what I do know is once we rezone this, that's official and they can do whatever they want in that zoning. To me, it doesn't make sense to move it to something that I don't think fits with the area. Master plan for single family traditional or even maybe higher. But so that's my main concern. We don't have a lot of knowledge of what's going to happen. And once it's done, then, that can change really quick. So, I mean, what I'd like to see is maybe more information on a firm, hard plan and that, or have it zoned to fit more in line again with what I think the master plan says and what the surrounding area is zoned to.
Okay, thank you. Shelley?
Hi, I'm Shelley Nazer. I am directly adjacent to this property. It's literally, about literally in my backyard. So I just wanted to speak about the application from the lawyer. He's not a developer. He states that the SFR zone would allow a couple of lots that are similar, but the SFR zone allows for 4.5 units per acre. So, if we do the math there, that could potentially be up to 22 homes. We're not talking about the concept that they showed us. We're talking about the potential of what the zone allows, right? So this SFR zone, it does allow for duplexes as far as all the charts and graphs that I've seen on the city website and in the code. And that would not be conducive to the current neighborhood where it does border SFR single family. There's so many. single family traditional and single family estate, the SFR zone does not cohesively fit with that model. The neighborhood to the north has been established for over 17 years. So I do think that we need to consider what the extra additional traffic will do to that quiet neighborhood. The neighborhood to the south no longer has construction noise and utility interruptions. And I know they wouldn't be excited to welcome back the mess and noise and safety impact of more construction. I'd like to remind you of the vision statement as stated in the general plan. As the population demographics grow and change, it is the intent of Providence to maintain the aesthetics of a hometown character. It also states in the general plan that you should select a plan for areas to preserve open space, parks, trails, scenic views, etc. In the environmental stewardship section, the plan guides you to retain open spaces and scenic views that contribute to the character of Providence, and that Providence recognizes the value and need for growth while still seeking to provide the agrarian quality of life, character, and uniqueness long associated with the community. Now, if you look closely at the future rezone map, you will see that there is absolutely no agricultural land remaining in Providence city limits. They've taken all of it and rezoned it to development. So having a vision for the city coupled with the appropriate goals and strategies will provide Providence with the tools necessary to ensure future growth and the character of Providence, that they are united and that they both occur without compromise to the other. The plan seeks to provide these guidelines, principles, and to best manage the look, feel, and function of this city. These are designed to proactively anticipate and guide future changes and achieve the community's shared vision. So I ask you to remember that the general plan was finished and approved just last year with the help of the steering committee and the professional consultant team. The Cache Valley Regional Council also adopted a 2040 vision plan that vows to protect, preserve, and improve air quality, water quality, wildlife habitat, agricultural land, and scenic beauty of Cache Valley. Providence, a community and place where people wish to live and raise their families, can only be achieved through careful planning, ensuring the clear guidance and policies are in place that guide growth in a positive and sustainable direction. Is that my timer? Okay, well, I just want to point you to the framework for the future. There are 4 lands that are marked as conservation lands. And if we remove this and we develop this land, there will only be 1 remaining out of those 4 guides. So we just like to direct you to look at that framework and to see that if we just develop everything, then everything's developed and we don't preserve what's meant to be preserved. Thank you.
So you're telling the people that own this property that you don't want them to sell it?
No, I mean, either that or we need to follow the guide that's been developed by the professionals that we took careful planning and careful consideration into. It did not include the SFR zoning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jason?
This doesn't rise up, does it? So my name is
Sorry.
Jason Smart. I'll try not to hunch too much here, but my wife and I own the piece of property, about 2.7 acres directly west of the current property that we're discussing. And we also, west. Right there. And then we also own a home that's just 2 homes south. So basically south of where someone else spoke. So we're really close. We're very invested in this land. We bought this land with the understanding that we could put 2 or 3 larger homes on there, nice homes, myself, my in-laws. And so to deviate away from that, away from the general plan, really affects our personal plans of what we want to do with that property, what we intend to do with that property. And it's, I think everyone here,
Tell me where your home is.
it's the one, so I could point it out. Oh,
Go ahead. You can go
It's
with
right
it.
here. Okay. Yeah. So we're close by. I don't know if me being here counts as 2 people, so I get 6 minutes. But we have we own 2 different parcels here that we're also concerned about this transition to SFR. It really affects what we intended to do with the property. And it's a big deal for us. I mean, this is going to affect us whether we can even build these homes. This is a big deal for us. This is not a little deal. I think the general plan outlined that this could be transitioned to SFT, and now we're wanting to go SFR. This plan, we have to disregard this plan. This is the old plan. No one can look at this as a guide, because as soon as we change it to SFR, I'm really concerned that it could get chopped up into little pieces. The previous developer that would have bought the property couldn't make enough profit. And so how can a new buyer who's paying, we believe, more than what the other buyer was going to pay, how can they make a profit? They're going to have to chop it up. And as soon as they get the go ahead, they can completely change their plan. And we're really concerned about that. So we just ask you to please, help us out, help our community. We're really invested. We're all here because we're neighbors. If the developer wants to approach us in the future and maybe talk about, SFT or large homes, we're happy to talk to them about that. But thanks for your time and for considering.
And your lot is zoned what?
It should be SFT, I believe. SFE. Oh, you're saying E. Which lot are you talking about?
The lot that you live on.
We live on right now SFE, but we own the property that's the SFT, I believe, right? Yeah. So we own that 2.7 acre SFT lot that has not been developed yet.
Okay, I guess I'm not seeing which one that is.
Oh, sure. It's right here.
Okay. So that's 2.3 acres,
2.7.
2.7.
And again, it really affects what we had intended this whole time since we bought the lot.
I have some question. The home that you live in now in the subdivision,
Yes, sir.
what is the size of that lot?
That's a great question. So we own the lot right behind it as well. They're two, are they about quarter-acre lots? I don't know. I think they're about quarter-acre lots. So it's a nice backyard. And so does that help answer your question?
Yes, I was just looking at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, Andrea? Thank you. Changing elevation here. Name, Andrea Diamond, and it's my pleasure to give you my thoughts on this. I am let me see, I'm like the fourth lot up, I think, on the south side. And to the point that Jason made, we're sitting in a space where, and many others, we're sitting in a space where SFT and SFE are the norm. SFR, as I understand it, is only found around the commercial district. And there's a reason for that, because that creates a buffer zone between commercial and then residential. So this SFR is a misfit. As to the point of prospective buyers with the lawyer here, there is another option that hasn't been pursued by the Kents. They haven't extended the opportunity for our lots to purchase the buyers and the residents on our side to be buyers and extend our lots to be more in alignment with a single family estate. And the history of Providence is like rife with people getting away with things that have caused hard feelings. And I feel so bad for the people who live through those histories. I feel like there's a potential for another disturbance here with the intentions of the seller. There's no guarantee that they can provide. I mean, the lawyer might be able to provide some kind of signed document that the lots will not go below 12,000, but with the narrow lots, the elevation can go up, and then we get into quality of life, where we have in our plan talking about agrarian quality of life and scenic views, and spirit of community is in our plan. And that starts to encroach on other people's enjoyment in the neighborhood. And so just trying to weave together the best parts of this, I'd like to propose that there is another buyer out there, maybe multiple buyers who can preserve the Kent's nature, go into the conservation
kind of a mode where we would have more space between houses and we could get a blend of all these ideas. But we can't do that if it's FSR because there's zero guarantee. And if they decide to up and move, whoever buys that gets to increase their dollar amount developing that land, and they can just be free of the bomb they drop, you know. And I don't know how we can ensure that if we're going to pass SFR in an anomaly in our area and still meet the goals of the general plan. So I'm going to see if there's anything else I missed. Also, I'm not sure how this would work out with the road requirements, but I'd like to speak on behalf of my dearly beloved neighbor, Eleanor Hanson. I know she has been adamantly opposed to putting a road in back there, and I know that makes the developer have to shrink that road size, and it would still work. But just between land dedication versus, you know, buying that, I think it would still be difficult emotionally for this sweet lady who has lived there her whole life, raised her kids. So I just wanted to put that note in on her behalf, if you don't mind. So I think there are approachable neighbors who would come up with an alternative purchase opportunity for them if they don't get their wishes. Just have to offer more. We're happy to talk.
Question, Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
I've noticed on the county map here, your lot size is about 10,000 square feet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that they're suggesting a lot size of 10,000 square feet.
Right.
So why would it be any different if they did theirs 10,000?
Yeah,
and yours
thank
is
you.
10,000 and all the lots?
Thank you for
All your
asking.
neighbors are 10,000.
Yeah, so I wasn't here when this happened, but the story to me, if anyone can speak to this, please do. But that land that we're sitting on is currently zoned SFE. So the developer came in and spent some amazing amount of money getting his plan going, and the city didn't process things correctly, and he didn't process things correctly. So he overlaid a development that was an SFR or T. It's an R. It's an R, actually. It's an R. And really rocked the boat with a lot of people and hurt some feelings and caused not a good scenario. So we are still zoned SFE. And if we did get to purchase land behind our houses, we would be able to realign with our original zoning and be able to have that beautiful view and spacious feeling up there. Now, SFR was just considered for, and you know, the area north where it makes a little more sense. Or is it SF? See, we get up here and we can't remember the Sarah Lane one. So we know Visionary's putting in a bunch of homes just north of us, right? And that density is higher. And so those provisions are being made in areas where it's not being argued as much, right? And you know, so I just feel like that story of our lots being 10,000 is a great reason why we shouldn't be putting SFR up there and ruffling the feathers of the general plan that I know the city spent a lot of money on. So, okay, does that answer?
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Any more questions? Okay, Mark?
It's well, I have to speak first, and then if I miss something, you can.
Oh, I think you should get the last word, actually.
Oh, I should have the last word. That's
Not
okay.
in my house.
I might have the last word. We live in that quiet neighborhood to the north. And we have lived in that neighborhood for 20 years. We're on Aspen Ridge Lane. We bought our home for the reason because it was in a subdivision and it was quiet and it was off the road. There was no through traffic. My concern is taking that road through. I don't see how that road aligns straight, first of all. And when it enters into that other neighborhood, now that looks like we've got 2 lanes here. Now we got this a little bit. Was it single lane? Is that going to be a double lane that goes through that neighborhood? My other concern is we go out on to
Remember, we're not
Okay, that was my question, though,
Just the
is
zone.
that, you're right. My other concern is Canyon Road. Canyon Road is busy. With all the development going up above us, that road is extremely busy. And so to put another neighborhood that can come through to that road, we end up with even a busier street. So we bought our home for that quiet neighborhood, and I'd like to keep it a quiet neighborhood.
Good evening, Mark Hanfield. How are you?
Good.
I've been listening to all these people speak, and there's a lot of good information here tonight. I would like to quote and coincide with Shelley Nazer as well from everything that she spoke. So I'd like to duplicate that in a quick sentence. As my wife was saying, we live on Aspen Ridge Lane. The corner lot that is there is owned by Larry Hogue. Has been there for at least 21 years as we've been there. Very difficult to put a house on. It is the misfit child in the neighborhood. You know.
So on the corner of Sunset.
No. This is right here.
Okay.
So just looking and hypothetically saying that this is going to be the layout plan for this particular piece of property. Lot number 3, I don't know how it meet the requirements. So I'd like for you to strongly consider that of how you're going to put a home on there on lot number 3. And it's going to be 15,000 square feet compared to the 10,000 feet that the Diamonds have, which is going to be just another misfit in this neighborhood. Okay. In addition, Mrs. Hanson, I totally concur with that road, but I also concur with it not only taking her property and making that a legitimate road, but I'm strongly considering and concerned about emergency entrances, fire, police, county services, snow plows, getting through all that type of construction area and that type of bottleneck restriction right there. That's a big concern because it is tough anyhow. Those streets that are on Aspen Ridge and Sunset. This one here having the same type of slope, the same type of grade as those two, it will be difficult. And then where are you going to put the snow and those types of resources and everyday trash removal? So those types of things are needing to be concerned in addition to preservation of the city's platform and general plan as well too. This is all there. So taking a look at those types of things. The lots, hypothetically, again, if they were to remain as they are quite varied in sizes. You go from 21,400 feet down to 12,600. It seems like a jigsaw puzzle of multiple sizes where they missed a few cuts. To me, that doesn't sound like it's an accommodating, comfortable culture to live into. I understand the 26,000 feet of the owners is going to remain there. So you have this very large piece of area surrounded by various different sizes. Now, granted, I don't like cookie cutters, and maybe a lot of people do like cookie cutters, but it's something to consider of, A, how do they propose to sell those properties, have a misfit child in that piece of property, and be able to maintain emergency services, general services, county services, and to continue to do those types of things within the city. So taking off this particular land here, we're going into the where the Diamonds live and another neighborhood going through 5500 East. Granted, there's a tree there. Trees are trees. Trees have been there for a while. I don't know. I'm a proponent of trees. I'm a preservationist and conservationist, depending upon the situation. But that's going to be a very busy road and quite a bit of traffic as well too. So I guess my time's up, but please consider those types of things as you proceed with this this rezoning. It's AGR or agriculture right now. In the opening notes from Mrs. Bankhead, it was noted that this is going to SFR, but she made a comment that it was most likely going to be SFT. I'd like to see a clear definition of what it's going to be and lean towards SFT and to make the homes a larger scale and completely try and eliminate the possibility of townhomes, multiple homes, they too would be misfit homes within the neighborhoods of both of those residing neighborhoods, north and south. So please consider those if one of those was to pop up. It can be changed. This is an interim plan, and it's something that I'd just like to bring to your attention and that I've been aware of. Thanks.
Just to put your mind at ease, single family residential does not allow townhomes or any of that kind of thing. It's single families.
But twin homes. Well, the language of SFT, SFR is those acronyms have been confusing for everybody in the audience tonight, including myself. But
do you want Scarlett to give you some more information on it?
I'll probably check with her at a later time. Yeah, but
the rest of you want to hear? If you're confused about it, let's not be confused.
I don't know. I'm speaking for myself.
I do.
Okay, so Scarlett, if you do a little bit of schooling here. Well, let her instruct, and then if you still have questions, she can answer them.
So make sure it's clear, the applicant is asking for single-family residential, which has a base minimum of 10,000 square foot lots and 80 foot of frontage. The general plan shows that this property would probably be considered for single-family traditional. That's where the general plan direction is single-family traditional, which is 12,000 square foot lots, 95 foot frontages at the setback line. The property is currently zoned agriculture, which is 1 unit per 5 acres. So that's all it gets. The intent of the general plan is to help guide the city as it makes decisions. So the intent of the general plan looked at that area, the planning commission that worked on that, the staff, the consultants. They looked at it, and they looked at it as single family traditional, which is a minimum of 12,000 square foot lots. Again, those are minimums. In many of the zones, there are many lots that are bigger than the minimums. So those are minimums. We don't have a maximum lot size in the single family traditional or the single family residential. So in either one of those zones, someone could turn a lot into a 3 acre lot, and it would meet our code within that zone, as long as they had the frontage and did what they needed to do. So those are minimum lot sizes. They can certainly make bigger lots, which traditionally that has happened in most of the zones. There are always the lots that are a little bit bigger than the minimum size of the zone. So, but I'm happy to, if someone wants to ask a question, I'm happy to clarify more than that. But it's the general plan that shows the potential of this property going single family traditional, not Scarlett and not the staff. It's the general plan.
The single family traditional, single family SFR. Residential. Okay. They're very similar. The single family traditional allows twin homes.
No.
Single family residential allows twin homes on 12,000 or single homes on 10,000. Okay. And the single family traditional, I'm sorry, the SFT, that allows 10,000. 12,000. And no twin homes.
No twin homes.
Okay. Any other significant differences?
The frontage is different.
Frontage is different, yes. Okay.
So the frontage is different. They can go down to 80 feet of frontage in a single family residential, which is SFR. And they can go down to, they have to have 95 feet in a single family traditional. So there's a 15-foot frontage difference. And I think maybe it's important to just chat for a skosh.
I will. You want to grab a mic?
I'm gonna come back.
Oh, okay.
I just want, okay, At one point in time, back in 2003, a developer came, 2004, somewhere in that zone, that time frame. They came with a development plan and they were looking at single family traditional. At that point in time, in single family traditional, we allowed lot size averaging, is what we called it back then. And they could go down as low as 10,000 square feet, as long as their lots averaged out to meet. They couldn't increase the density. They had to stay at the density level, but they could have a certain percentage of lots less than 12,000 square feet. In the code today, we still have what's called flexible lot sizing, and they can do some things with the frontages, but they cannot go below 12,000 square feet. So the development that's proposed, or the development that's in the blue, if that were to happen today, there would probably be a significant reduction in the amount of 10,000 square foot lots that would be in there, because it's different rules than it was then. There's also a time when we had different personnel, and they responded to the idea that it would be really good to know what was going to be developed before the zone got changed. And so they went through the development plan with the developer. The developer did not. He was open. He presented his plans. He met with the staff. He went through the planning commission, went through the city council. He presented his plans. And there were several different plans that we would look at, and we didn't like certain things, and he changed street configurations and things like that. And so he went through all of that. So people knew what he was planning, and then he went to the table to ask for the zone. And of course, it was the exact same arguments that you've heard tonight, that only then the property had horses on it. And so there was a lot of resistance to seeing the horse pasture go to houses. So the council said, well, let's make it single family estate. Let's make it 1 acre lots. And so that's what they did. And the developer said, whoa, you've already approved my preliminary plat at single family, what was then single family traditional. And so we sat down with the property ombudsman and realized that that's why we do not do development plans before you zone, because once those development plans start to get approved and the developer relies on that to proceed, then he has a certain vesting, and we can't go back on what we've approved. Everybody is right. Once you zone this, they can build what is allowed within the zone. But they also have to build the infrastructure that is required, that will make that, and the infrastructure will take into account emergency vehicle needs, water lines, sewer line, snow plows, all of that type of stuff. We look at that. We make sure that whatever development goes in, it goes in and it meets our code. So it was an unfortunate thing, caused a lot of emotion, a lot of sadness, but it wasn't so much the single family traditional as it was the leaving of the horse pasture, which I have to say, it was my backyard too, and I liked watching those horses as well. In fact, I even rode quite a few of them and played in that backyard, or in that place. So I understand where all that emotion came from, but I do want to let people know that it was not a bait and switch or anything like that from a developer. It was a learning experience for a city that tried to do the right thing by allowing people to see what was going to go in before they made the zone change. So we learned that that wasn't the way to do it. So that's why we do it now.
Growth opportunities.
you.
Yeah. Thanks for the update.
No, I'd like to go ahead and continue where it's at. I appreciate that information. That was very helpful. The lots that are
I'm
laid
gonna
out
give you
right
2
here,
minutes.
the lots that are laid out right here, right now, would have a difficult time if you just do the simple math of meeting what she just required. And the 12,000-foot square lots and a 95-foot setback. That would put homes, if I'm reading this correctly, and this is 107.3 feet. Take 107 minus 80, that's 27 feet.
It's frontage,
Frontage.
not a setback. That's the width of the lot.
Okay.
So
frontage.
not that the house has to be
Setbacks are
back 80 feet or 95 feet. It's the frontage on the roadway.
Thank you for clarifying. There was a misunderstanding.
Sure.
So my
Okay.
fault. Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Have we had Diana? Okay. Oh, you switched on me.
Did he cover what you didn't cover?
Did you want the last word or what? Just trying to keep it light in here. Okay, Chris?
I'm Chris Studinger. I just moved here 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks. Well, welcome to Providence.
I'm on 500 East. So we just moved here from Farmington, Utah. Before that, we lived in Arizona for a long time. And we left Farmington because there were all these duplexes and apartments and everything else going up. And we just wanted a different place. Now, if I'd done a bunch of research and really looked at it and would know that there was a possibility of a bunch of duplexes or something going like that going in quarter mile from my house, that would be certainly disappointing. For me personally, seeing that road would be punched through, if that road got a lot more busy, everybody's got gaggles of kids around here and stuff like that. But, my boys have gotten very comfortable being out on the road. That's obviously a concern. From understanding all the information, it doesn't sound like to me that they can have, if they do go to 12,000 square feet on the lot, they can only have, I think 20% of the land can be developed as, multi-home, or I don't remember the exact term.
Twin
Twin home. And I also understand that it's a difficult argument. I live on a 10,500 square foot lot. So, when that argument comes up, right now it's agriculture, it's 5 acres. I feel for the people that back up to that property because they bought it because I think they were under the assumption that they were going to have views for a long time. There wasn't going to be a house right behind it. I do think, listening to everything that she said, when it's zoned, the city plan was to have it be SFT. Jason's lot right across from it is SFT. And from my understanding, having been here 2 weeks and listening tonight, is that somebody kind of manipulated my neighborhood that I live in to being able to get to those size of lots. I understand that the people want to sell their property and the builders want to be able to make a profit on it. I get it. But I mean, I'm a business guy, but to have the possibility of there possibly being like 22 homes in a 5 acre area is concerning, to say the least. So, that's really all I have to say. Can you explain to me, like, you're not voting on anything, you're just listening to the arguments and then?
This is a public hearing.
Okay.
And so we'll listen to your feedback.
Sure.
And then down further on the agenda is the item, and we will vote on it. But you have to understand, we are only a recommending body.
Okay.
So the planning commission does the legwork, and then I'll write a report to the city council and tell them whatever decision we have made. But the city council, just last time, they went opposite of what we recommended.
Okay.
So
What did
we
you
kind of,
recommend this time?
well, it was on another piece.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And so know that it's not over yet, because the planning commission is only going to recommend. The city council then makes a decision based on what they know and what additional information that they hear. Most of the time they go with our recommendation, but occasionally they do go over our heads.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm at the end of the list. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Oh, that is a good question. Did we get anything? You still have a comment?
Yeah.
You, go ahead.
So there's talk of 22 homes in here, but if you look at this, there's really only a possibility to have one road going here. So if you figure your frontage 80-foot wide lots in here, the maximum based on what I figured that you could have on the north end is 8 lots. And on the south end, you could maybe fit 3, maybe 4 lots, but probably not. And so 22 lots is kind of a, yeah, that's if you didn't have to have any roads. That's if you didn't have, had multiple roads. But just the possible amount is a lot less than what people are worried about. So I hope that solves a lot of concern there. And then I do still hold to the duplex argument that I made about it not being allowed based on the use. Someone said they saw the chart that says otherwise, but if you pull up the code, I don't know if you want to do that or not.
Do you want to comment? Scarlett?
That's kind of a moot point at this point, but we consider we have a definition in our code for single family attached housing, which means that the people that purchase those own the land that it's sitting on. So like a townhome is a single family attached, not a multifamily in our code. Now it's probably considered multifamily in everybody's view, but so a single family, a twin home where they are single family homes and each owner owns the property underneath them, they would be considered a single family attached home, and single family attached is a permitted use in residential. But you couldn't do a whole string of townhomes because you run up against the 47.5 feet and the 6,000 feet per unit, or excuse me, the 6,000 minimum square feet per unit type thing. So that's kind of why it would be limited to single family or to a twin home under the single family attached.
What about the side yard? Is there, it seems like the side yard requirement for SFR would prevent that?
There's an exception for a twin home.
Okay. Those were some of my main comments. There's some suggestion that people could buy the property, but I don't think they can once they're developed lots. But I doubt they're going to want to pay $100,000 or more for additional acreage behind their home. So that's not very realistic overall, I think. And the roadway, of course, going to cost several $100,000 to put in. Anyway. Also, there's a lot of talk about open space and how this needs to be open space. It seems quite unfair to impose on the Kents what should have been obligations of prior developers building 10,000 square foot lots. Kents are not the scapegoats for other developers who didn't provide sufficient lot size for their customers. Those who bought in understood that they didn't own the property behind them. It was not a public park. Conservation easements don't apply here. Also, the sloping and none of that's a problem. I walked the property myself as well. There's not going to be a problem there. And really, I think the Kents staying and living there does help to quell a lot of people's concerns. I think their main purpose is really just to provide for their lot and to make sure that that tree and their hot tub and the property isn't encroached on such that it's not realistic to have happen. If they put the border right by the tree trunk, then the neighbor would have the legal right to go chainsaw it straight, chop it off. So they want to make sure that big and I'd say somewhat historic tree can stay there and not be harm for them and their grandkids. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. If you have a comment, I'll give you 1 minute. Oh,
The lawyer, because I'm hearing on this side, this isn't actual the plan.
you have to come to the,
Oh,
and state your name.
Diana Hatfield. And just, I'm hearing from this side, I'm confused.
Okay.
Is this the actual plan or not?
No.
Lawyer. Is this the actual plan?
It's pretty close to what they'd like. to
Is
have
this
happen.
the actual plan?
No.
You need to
Thank you.
come.
That's all, I just want clarification on that. This is not the actual plan.
No, so this is a rezone application and it's not part
So
of
we're
the
not-
application.
I just wonder why
package.
we're doing this if this isn't the actual plan. That was my only question.
Oh, this
Just
is,
confused.
yeah, this
Just
is the
confused.
informal plan that they hope to, other than the boundary line adjustments on the two lots that are too wide for their purposes.
So this is similar to what they're
Yeah,
planning to do,
it's quite
but it's
similar.
not the plan.
It's not, yeah, because we're not in the subdivision.
Okay. All right, Scarlett has some comments.
No comments. I just verified that I have not received any texts or emails to the Providence City,
To the official
one.
Okay.
And I looked at my S-Bank head at providence.utah.gov. I don't have any emails on that one either. So no electronic comments at this point.
And Ryan, do we have anybody on Zoom or?
There are people on Zoom, but no comment has been made there.
All right, those of you that want to make a comment, you get 1 minute. Vaughn?
Vaughn Farnsworth, live at 702 South 500 East, so I'm about a half a block to the north of subject property. Just a couple of comments. One, I think it's presumptuous of the attorney to think that neighbors are unwilling to pay anything or whatever they're willing to pay, so that needs to be considered. Also, I think it's worth noting that if the neighbors were to buy the property extending straight back from their properties and the Kents were to maintain the current road, or the neighbors were to buy that, then through a boundary realignment, that rezoning would incorporate the same zoning that the residents currently have, I believe, if that's correct. So if we go through a boundary realignment, Nazers, for example, if they went all the way to the north side and reached an agreement with the Kents to help maintain or to maintain the road going back to the Kents house, then they would achieve their objective to have a say over what happens with that ground. So that's just a thought. I think it would be worthwhile. I've seen other cases where the zoning or the planning zonings agreed to defer a decision until maybe they have more interaction between the developer, whoever the developer is, and the or the owner with the neighbors to talk through some of these things that might be mutually agreeable and reach a consensus with that. So just pass those comments along.
Okay.
Andrea Diamond, and I echo that same thing that Juan just said. And also the, I just feel like we have a decoy going on here with the historic tree, because I do also know that there are a lot of people who love the tree that would be destroyed if the road went through. And so tree, whatever, hot tub, I feel like we're being decoyed away from the real issue. And the real issue is, to me, knit with the quality of life and the neighbor being willing to work with the neighboring potential buyers. And the fact that if it's FSR, this is not the plan. They can say it's close to the plan, but nobody knows what's actually going to happen. And so anyway, reminding you that the tree is not necessarily the only historic tree that's got its neck on the line. And we'd be happy to talk to them.
Good job. You stayed up in the line.
So my name is Jason Smart, and again, we're the people that own the property, the 2.7 acres directly west of the Kents. We actually aligned with the Kents. We love the tree. We'd be happy to talk with the Kents about saving the tree, but tonight we're talking about not the potential old plan that was passed out. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the SFR. And as soon as it's changed to SFR, the Kents could decide to change everything. They could sell their house. They could sell the whole piece of property, the close to 5 acres, and it could all be chopped up really small. The developers make a lot of money. We don't want that. The neighbors don't want that. We want it to be SFT as per the general plan, and we just ask you that you please respect the neighbors' wishes with that. Thank you so much.
Okay. We don't have any comments online or emails, so we're going to close this public hearing. And we're going to move ahead to item number 3. Item number 3, Providence City Planning Commission will consider and may recommend to the Providence City Council the rezoning of property in the general area of 1070 South, 400 East, Providence City, Utah. Application is requesting current zone, which is zoned as agricultural, be rezoned to single family high. This agenda item was tabled per request of the residents and motion of Planning Commission last meeting to allow residents and developer to discuss zoning and planning of the parcel. Okay, Andy is not here. Is here.
Andy is online, I believe, here. Andy is online. Andy, can you hear us? But he is online with us.
Okay, great. So.
I am here.
Okay, Scarlett, I'll let
Hello.
you take in. I'm gonna let Scarlett, can you hear? Okay. Scarlett, if you'll take a moment to explain this. And then Andy will give you some time.
Again, this is a request for a rezone. It's on 400 East. The developer is requesting single family high. Single family high allows 5.5 units per net acre. It has a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. The lot width is 60 feet in width. And so, again, we're not talking about the actual development plan. We are talking about what the zone would allow. And so I do know that they have met with the neighbors. I didn't go to those meetings, so I can't report on that. But I am sure Mr. Bentley has some information for you on that. So we've looked at this a couple of different times. I'll be happy to answer questions, but really that's the summary.
Okay,
thanks.
Thanks. Okay, Andy.
Oh, all over. Steve, appreciate you giving me some in tonight. I can you all hear me okay?
Your audio, Andy.
Oh, can you hear me okay now?
You want to turn off his video.
Is it cut out?
Well,
I'm
maybe
gonna turn the video off.
It's
Is
cutting you out. You may want to turn off your video.
I turned it off. Is that, can you hear me now?
Better.
No?
Yes, it's better.
Can you hear me good?
It's better, but you cut out a little bit, but it's better.
Still, okay. It's pretty choppy. Well, I am in the way, so I have the best Wi-Fi spot possible. So I did some tests that it seemed to work okay, but you know how it always goes. If you think you can hear me well enough,
You're loud enough. It's just your voice is in.
maybe not bad. Huh?
Andy,
Do you mind if I try something else real quick here?
Andy, could you try calling in on your phone?
Let's say I'm on my phone right now.
Using the Zoom
So
phone.
that's the only, yes. Yeah, so let me see here. Yeah, I don't think there's an option. I'm actually using my phone, right? And I'm presenting. Let me try one thing here. Let me see if I can switch
You're
over.
off the internet on your phone. So what we're suggesting is that you get off the internet and use your phone. Can we back up?
At that point, if he called using the cellular number on the link, he could call in and use cellular rather than data.
Did you understand that, Andy?
Right now, is that better? Maybe,
Well, you can try it.
maybe not. I don't know if we should move, honestly. I don't want to.
It sounds like your data is not going
What do
to
you
work.
guys,
It's not going to work very well. You can ask us to table this until the next meeting, since you're not able to be here. Hello, are you speaking? I can't hear you. Did he hang up off the Zoom? Let's put this item off for just till the end of the agenda, perhaps. Give him a chance.
is it any better, guys? If it's not any better, maybe we need to switch it up.
You're still kind of breaking up.
Yeah, I'm trying to find just a different spot here. And I mean, I have full bars actually. So,
Andy,
yes.
it's not about the bars because you're using your data rather than your cellular. So if you hung up and called the meeting on one of the cell numbers rather than attaching on with a link for data, then
Will I still be able to use my phone on the Zoom to present?
No.
Okay, that's the issue I'm having. Because I have everything on my phone, being on mobile at the moment. I have my PowerPoint on my phone, so it's an issue.
What would you like us to do? We can table it until the next meeting if you would like.
In 1 second here. So Vaughn is, I was actually suggesting I email the slide, but it is not, it's not emailing. I tried it earlier. I even tried a Dropbox link. Is it any better by any chance?
Yeah.
Cross my fingers.
Your voice is better.
You can hear me a little better.
Don't know what's going to happen when you try to show data.
we know what's going to happen in a couple minutes, right? Gosh, I hate to not get my point across. Well, should I try? Can you hear me now? decent?
Yeah, go ahead, try to share.
Okay, if we can't, then we can just cut it off and we can table it till the 11th, right? If you guys are willing to work with me on that. Let me. Share the screen here. Do you have me able to share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. All right, everybody see that?
Hold on.
Can you hear me okay?
Hang on a second, Ryan's working on it.
Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay. Good. Are you able to hear me decent? Okay. All right. So, it's just I'm calling this project Sunset Heights. All right. I know all of you have seen this before. Please let me know if you cannot hear me. So we did just kind of report back. We did meet with the neighbors. And we kind of went over a couple different options. We did not come to any real agreement. We did speak about possibly putting 5 lots that are matching the size and frontage on actual 470 East, so their neighborhood is complete, if you will. So we have done that. Some liked it, some were indifferent, some were still against it, of course. Some just want the big lots. So, what I'm looking at is a piece of agriculture, a piece of property zoned agricultural, right? It has not had previous zoning. The surrounding zones, it's funny. I've mentioned before how non-diverse Cache Valley is, but in the same breath, up in Providence, we are actually somewhat diverse in our zoning, right? And we have 1/4 acre lots, we have 1/3 acre lots, we have 1/2 acre lots, we have 1 acre lots, and they all seem to live in harmony together pretty well, right? People live across the street have 1/4 acre. People on the same street have a 1/3 acre, right? Over in Providence Estates, it's an acre. I'm up to an acre, right? So I think we actually have some pretty decent diverse zoning in the area. So when I look at that, I actually think, why would we stop now and not continue our diversity, right? I don't think this is anything extreme to put in that location, especially being that the diversity that's been there thus far, right? Now, I have a question for the Planning Commission. Is there an ordinance that states certain zones cannot be adjacent to other types of zoning?
Not aware of anything that is that particular statement.
Okay. I looked as well. I couldn't see anything. Everything seemed to be just explained what options there are in the city, right? Single family high density is I don't like the name of it, but that is what we are going for. That is what fits the project that I would like to do, right? The 55 and older community. So I kind of went over, I don't know if you all know where Shadow Mountain is in Cliffside. Okay. Quail Hollow, Quail Bluff, it's right around there, right? It surrounds the area. Here's the satellite view. It's about just over 3 acres. I'm sorry, I lied. It's just over 5 acres, 35 units. Okay. And if you notice, Mountain Road is to the north. All the surrounding homes, as of now in this market, easily $1 million plus, right? There's actually one, I was actually adding the last slide, but it's going for $899. and it's right, it backs right up to this development, this 55 and older community. Now, I understand that it's not the development we're looking at, it's the zone, and I understand that. However, let's pretend this isn't a 55 and older community. How does this affect all the other homes around it? Here's an idea. Here's a picture of just one of the kind of the entrance, right? Just a few pictures here of just driving through the streets. Okay. Does it seem, it seems like a pretty nice community, right? Taken care of. Do the homes seem super bunched together? And I'm asking like real questions. I feel it's a nice community, right? This has been, I want to say 06 or 07 is when this was built. And I'm sure there was a ton of opposition back then, right? Oh, we don't want 55 and older. We don't want small lots, right? That seems to be the premise tonight as well. Right? They don't want different, you know, we've all heard of human inertia, right? I mean, nobody wants change, and we will fight every possible way to keep our lives the same as what we're used to, right? So it's very, very normal. So this is just some photos of that Shadow Mountain. Now I have a question. This is kind of a plat map here. It gives it the look of how it's set up. Oops. Now, how big do you think the lots are in Shadow Mountain? Anyone have a guess?
I have no idea.
What was that?
No, I don't know.
No. Anyone have a guess at all? I was surprised, actually.
If you turn your phone sideways, maybe we could get a better picture of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have done that before. I am so sorry. I apologize.
Again, so that we can pass the test.
This is a test. I just really am curious because I thought so.
Go ahead.
So no, I was just wondering if anyone had any idea of what the lot sizes are.
Again,
I'm sorry.
show us the picture
Oh, okay, no problem.
that you had earlier of Shadow Mountain area.
Oh, okay, the satellite.
Could you show us the satellite? There you go.
Mhm.
A little bigger than it was. Okay, I give up.
So thanks for playing though. I appreciate you working with me here because I just really I was very surprised. So the average lot dimension is 68 by 42. Okay. 2,856 average square feet per parcel. That's how big those lots are. Less than half of what single family high is and what I'm presenting, right? What I'm proposing. Okay.
Those homes are worth how much?
I'm not sure what those are worth. But I'm just stating the 2,800 square feet parcels, right? They're tiny parcels, but the subdivision they did a great job. Now it was built, 15 years ago.
Vaughn has raised his eyebrows, which tells me that I bet he knows how much they are.
Okay, Vaughn.
Yes, there was recently on the far east road, one sold for $465, I believe, in that neighborhood.
Okay.
So
So 465 at under 3,000 square foot parcels, right? And it's surrounded by $1 million plus homes. Okay. And one of those homes are on the market right now for $899. Actually, they're taking backup offers. So to kind of give you an idea that this is done in other areas. It's not abnormal. I've never done this on my phone before, so I appreciate your patience.
You're walking around.
Are we good now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's just a couple more. And this is just me driving around the valley, and I'll stop and I'm like, oh, that's one I can take a picture of. So I took a picture of this one. Again, I don't know if this is 55 and older or not, but it's a single family, smaller lots, right? This one as well. Okay. Here's a few listings. So there's 7 total properties for sale in Providence right now. 7 total residences that can be purchased. Okay. Now, I know everyone really wants to keep these lots big. I know they just want the people that can afford the $900 to $1.3 million homes, right? They want that that's what they want, right? Everybody wants that, it seems. But what we're doing is we're pricing everyone else out, just the average person. So we're saying we only want the top earners in the valley to come next to me, even though I may be on a 1/4 acre, or I might be on a 1/3, right? Or I've been here for 40 years, right? And I actually don't fit the new neighborhood, right? So with the type of housing, right? So it's just one thing that 7 options there are in Providence right now. We need housing. People want to live in Providence, period. Okay, they want to live in Providence. Here's one. This is in what the cottages are. We all know the 55 and older down there. By Deer Creek, 69, 1,500 main basement, 0.07, so it's about 3,000 foot parcel. So this is a just 3,000 square feet as well.
We can't, Andy,
You can't hear me?
We can't tell
Yes. Can you see the picture?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. And I had another picture as well. There's also another one that is, I lost that one. Clearly it's blank now. Sorry about that. So there's another one. It was 0.14 acres, which is 6,000 square feet in Providence as well. Okay. And it's 550,000. So the price ranges we're at, people can't afford to move in. I mean, we do have an issue. There's been things that have come up saying, well, it doesn't fit. I'm putting air quotes. You can't see me right now. But my question is, why not? Why doesn't it fit? Why can't we have 55 and older community living next door to 1/2 acre, 1/3 acre, and 1/4 acre lots? Why not? Right? People ask them, well, why do you want to? Well, why not? Right? Now there's some positives. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go. So for example, HOA. Okay. HOA and CCRs, I'm just going to just touch on those. When you're talking appraisal value, you need to you may be in a neighborhood adjacent and you may get a different value than what's inside a certain HOA based on the covenants and the HOA restrictions, right? Restrictions, I know a lot of say HOA restrictions, right? What they're allowed to do. But in this case, this HOA would actually keep this all stickers on, everything would be kept up by the HOA. So it would maintain a very, very nice community for the long term, which I don't believe a lot of the areas around here actually have HOAs. Okay. So that's a huge positive. In this case, for this development alone, I understand doesn't necessarily have to be this development if you go single family high, but single level homes, less traffic, you have less people living there, 1 or 2 people per home as opposed to 4 to 5. Okay. Less noise.
He just dialed back in.
I'll tell him he's got.
Okay.
1 minute.
He's back on. I don't know whether he can hear, but he hasn't unmuted.
Andy, can you hear?
Andy, you're muted.
Andy? Unmute
There
yourself.
we go. I'm back.
Okay, I'm gonna give
Okay,
one
can you hear me
minute
now?
to finish up.
Perfect. Okay.
I'm gonna give you 1 minute.
So, okay, water conservation is a huge deal right now. When you're looking at a 6,000, and we're just going with just square footage of homes, of lots, right? 6,000 square foot lot takes around 93,600 gallons a year to water. Okay. For a half acre lot, about 21,000 is what I figured, 327,000 gallons of water. Okay. I know that was something that was brought up. Another thing that was brought up also, is the traffic. Okay. There will be no driveways on the 400 East Collector Road with this plan. We're keeping all the driveways off this road. Okay. So less traffic, and you don't have people backing into the road. Okay. When this is a collector road, as things get more busy. Now, the kicker is you get a lot of people that are talking about emergency services and the icy road. When I went to meet the neighbors, it was interesting because I think there were 2 people below 55. And there are many in their 70s and 80s that live right around that 300-foot radius, right? So this actually matches the demographic of the surrounding area very well. We already have these people in that age group living in that area. Okay. Now, one thing, I did have one question I did want to touch on, the emergency services, right? Everybody was really concerned about the emergency services in the area for these older people. Yet, like I said, we're in the same demographic as the people that are already living there. And I guess my question would be, what is an acceptable response time for emergency services for a 55 and older community? Does anyone know? Is there like specs on that, or do you guys have any idea? Okay.
There is
anyway, I'm just curious if you guys have any idea.
Okay, Ryan is responding.
There is guidelines to that. Oh, he's gone. I will tell you, there is guidelines to that. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I know that there are guidelines on response times.
I think we have enough information that we can talk about.
Okay. I wasn't able to find any myself. I don't know if you guys have or not.
There are some guidelines, and I think we are well within the guidelines for responsive.
I met with the chief. I met with the fire chief just last week, and he went over. I met with the fire chief just last week, and he went over some of those with me, but I don't remember off the top of my head. That's why I know that there are some.
But there were no alarm bells that went off.
No.
Okay.
We didn't talk about this property, to be honest.
Yeah.
The developer asked me if I could find out what actual response times have been for that area. I sent an email to Chief Hannig, Logan City, and he said there are about 18 instances he looked at, and they vary from 7 minutes to 12 minutes response time from the point in time when they get a page to respond to a call.
Pretty darn good, actually. Okay, thank you, Mayor. All right, discussion.
Well, we got bits and pieces.
I think we got the gist of it, Andy.
You've all heard me talk a lot before. Okay, all right. Ultimately, for me, looking at Shadow Mountain and looking at the surrounding homes, and I feel I've addressed all the questions. And looking at it really of what would the reason be that that the city would not allow this to be there? I can't find one reason whatsoever. We've alleviated any potential extra traffic. There's a lot of points that we've made that we feel we've alleviated on any questions. But yeah, I can't think of any reason why, or I should say, why not?
I am going to call for questions from the audience if someone has anything on this particular piece of property? Okay, I don't have anyone. So we're going to discuss now, Andy. So if we've got some questions, we'll ask you.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, so questions, comments?
My comments, I like the idea that it's going to be developed. I don't think single family high is appropriate for the area. I think something more along the lines of either single family residential or single family traditional will be more appropriate for the area.
Okay.
I agree. I agree with Brian. When we had the last meeting, and it was discussed a great deal, but even though we're talking a 55 and older community, the bottom line is we changed the zoning. It could be sold, it could go to something different. We're saying we allow 6,000 square foot lots there. And I just think the community, I'd like to see it higher. It is higher in some areas, but my compromise would be the 10 to 12,000, 8 to 10,000, 10 to 12,000 square foot lots would be my opinion.
So single family,
Yeah.
traditional, single family residential.
Yeah, single family traditional or single family residential. You're talking 10 to 12,000. I think it fits more there with those. If we were going to change the zone, that a developer, that anybody could come and do something with, that's it. If it was going to be for certain a 55 and older community, I don't know that that's the right place for it, but then that's something different. But we have no guarantee of that. What we have is the recommendation of the zoning. And I think that it would be in the best interest of the community, the neighborhood, or the SFR, SFT. I mean, SFR, yeah, SFR, SFT. That's fine.
Okay.
Like SFT. That's what I would go for, I guess.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that the Planning Commission regarding item number 3, parcel 0211500027, request for rezoning, that this request be declined.
Okay.
I'll second
A
that.
motion by Michael Fortune, second by Brian Marble. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, we're voting on nay or,
Or voting on turning it down?
okay, aye.
Okay, aye. So motion passes. Thank you, Andy. Okay, item number 4. Providence City Planning Commission will consider and may recommend to the Providence City Council. So I just want to make sure we are recommending to the City Council to deny.
For single family.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
Okay. Planning Commission will consider and may recommend to the Providence City Council the rezone of property in the general area of Sarah Street, 300 North, parcel 02-101-001, currently zoned as single family large, with a request to be rezoned to single family traditional SFT. This was what we talked about on the public hearing, but we do have an issue in this area, not an issue with water, but an issue with pressure. And I would like to recommend to the commission that we table this so that the city has a chance to work on the pressure issue.
At this point, there is perceived issues in the area. We're working on a water master plan at this point, and with the size of the development, we would ask that the
commission wait until we can return with enough information from that master plan to answer whether flow or pressure will be a problem. So that's what we're asking, is just kind of a delay on that one.
It's my understanding that we have 2 other subdivisions that are currently on hold. They're further along than this one.
Other
because
phases of the
same
development.
issue.
Okay, so you're saying that the current homes up the hill that are SFL, we're allowing development there, we're allowing homes to be built there, and there is pressure for them, but not for if we were to develop this.
We're not, at this point, it would be different zoning, pressure zoning levels, but there is so if you, let me see this, those that have been subdivided, we're saying, they can proceed. We're not having
enough pressure.
And we're saying that that's been taken care of. But when all of this acreage and all of the above acreage, when those 2 developments, but 3 different phases of different ones, this north one has 2 phases to it. But when all of those are counted, and that we would like to be proactive and make sure that that we don't have any area of major problem, and we would like to find that out before there's a problem rather than after. And so we're saying, because of the amount of development in the Northeast, in those two developments, and the number of homes, we're saying we'd like to have time that our water master plan and good planning and development be established before those finish the current step they're in. So we have a consultant that we've selected. We're moving forward with that. So anyway, sorry.
You got an idea how much time that'll take?
3 to 6 months.
So we went ahead with a public hearing so that this particular piece of property would be that far down the road so they don't have to wait another amount of time. But at this time, the city feels like we would like to table this so that we have better information to make a decision about. It has nothing to do with the zone that they're asking for. It only has to do with the fact that it's a development, and we need to make sure we've got the right infrastructure to service that.
Right. And you'll notice there wasn't a lot of public comment on that public hearing. So we're just asking and saying, let's make sure that before a rezone occurs, that we know that there's not a problem, and we're not sure that there is, but we want to make sure that planning has occurred before. So that's
it's not an indictment on the zone that they're asking for.
Right.
Right.
And you're concerned about the pressure for actual homes that will be built there, but also for the firefighting efforts there.
Sure. Okay. Sure. And for the existing ones, how these ones will affect the existing homes that are currently there. So anyway, we just want to do our homework, and the timing wise, this has come in a little quicker than we've got the planning on the full set depth of these, and 2 of them have come right on the heels of each other. So
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we table the rezone recommendation on parcel 02-101-0001 until we can get further information.
Okay, I have a motion by Robert Perry.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Michael Fortune. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Scarlett, I just noticed the item number 4 on the agenda. Nothing big. It just, I think we're missing a 0. Probably should dump that in there instead of 020 or 101-001. Should have another 0 in that last set of numbers.
It's the same length as the one below.
No, there should be 3 zeros.
Should there?
Yeah.
0, yeah.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Always best to ask. Okay, item number 5, Providence City Planning Commission will consider and may recommend to this Providence City Council, the rezoning of property in the general area of 750 South, 500 East, parcel 02-113-0049, currently zoned as agricultural with a request to be rezoned to single-family residential, SFR. So, discussion?
I have a question, but somebody else can go first. Raise it right.
Well, one of my concerns as I look at it is, and although we are only talking zoning issues today, that's what we're concerned with and what we would vote on. I think the design of the subdivision is a little off skew, to be honest with you. My personal opinion is you're developing a subdivision around saving a house that a family will probably in a short amount of time, it'll pass to children or youth, and they, you know, whether they'll keep it, whether they don't. I think the road coming in, it creates some weird sized lots and it doesn't necessarily fit. It does at the front, but not necessarily fit. That's just something that stood out to me is all I'm saying. And I understand that to keep a tree and where the boundary line would be on one side regarding the fence and the hot tub and, you know, whatever the issue is, just the fact that we're designing a subdivision based on trying to keep what's been there for a long, long time, kind of keep that the same. If that wasn't there, if they were selling a property, the road would probably come right through the middle, you know, and that would be a different look to it.
But this is just for zoning.
I know it's just for zoning, but that's what I was saying, just from that aspect of it. And then it might look a little bit different, but in regards to the zoning, my opinion is, what is my opinion?
It's written here somewhere.
SFR versus
I've looked at my notes. I think I would stick with single family tradition. I think just the design would be different. Because again, it's going to be, if we rezone it to something, regardless of what the hope is that this is what we're going to do and we want to save these trees and this thing, they could sell the property to somebody and we've rezoned it and they can do whatever they want that way. And so we have to look at it from that perspective. That's the way I try to look at it, is if they were to sell it tomorrow, something changed and they wanted to move or something else, whatever the reason, we've opened the door for it to be sold to a developer that can, you know, go forward with what he could get under that zoning SFR instead of SFT. There's a little bit of difference there. So I think to keep with the feel of the neighborhood, the community, I think it needs to be SFT, in my opinion.
Brian, you have
I do. The lot size in question, SFR being 10,000 square feet. We've got a subdivision directly south of the property. And it is also, well, the adjacent properties and properties that are close by are the same size. They're 10,000 square feet. And that's what the developer is asking for, is SFR, which is a 10,000 foot. And being that they can only have one twin home in there, I'd like to see it go. I like the idea of the proposal that it be zoned to single family residential. And it's not that different from single family traditional that completely surrounds it. And for that reason, I like it just the way it is. I mean, I like the idea of single family residential along with the developer.
Robert?
Ready to make a motion. I recommend that we look at parcel 02-113-0049 and the single family residential.
Okay, I have a motion on the table Robert Perry. We have a second
That's an acceptance. That's what you did.
to accept the proposal.
Accept the proposal and move it on to the city council. And I would second that motion.
Okay. Any further? We have a second by Brian Marvel. Anyone have any other comments to add? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
All right. Motion passes. Administrative actions, we have Spring Creek Townhome Concept Plan. The Planning Commission will review and may vote on a concept plan for Spring Creek Townhome. I'm going to stop right there and just let you know that this is a recommendation that goes to the City Council. Thank you for coming and participating. Okay. Planning Commission will review and may vote on a concept plan for Spring Creek Townhomes and mixed-use development located in the general area of 265 North Gateway Drive. So Scarlett has some feedback for us.
Okay, generally, the planning commission doesn't get involved at the concept plan level. But in the mixed use zone, there are some things that it comes right out in the ordinance and talks about the planning commission having the input in it. And so that's why this is coming before you. This is a, and for the audience that's here, mixed use means that it's going to be a mix of residential and retail, and may also include personal service, office, that type of thing. They can have up to, there's two types of density in mixed use. One of them is vertical, and that would be that the businesses, the retail shops would all be on the bottom floor, and then the residential living would be on upper floors. And then there's horizontal, which would mean that you would have a series of residential buildings, and then you'd have a series of commercial retail buildings, but they would not be on top of each other. They'd be integrated in the development, but they wouldn't be stacked. But the vertical has a maximum density of 39 units per net acre. The horizontal has a maximum density of 30 units. So this one would be under the 30 unit maximum density.
And these are being sold, aren't they? Aren't they sold as condominiums?
No.
So these are rentals.
These are apartments.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not shown necessarily that they are subdividing. So it's all under one ownership. My understanding is that even the commercial building would be leased out. So it looks like it's one ownership. I do believe we have someone from the development here.
Shaking his head.
So you can ask a little bit of some of that detail with them. So some of the things that we need to look at, the general or Providence City has enacted ordinances that allow development, and the general plan shows this area as city core with 5 to 10 minute mixed use nodes. A city core is a business district style of commercial and offices uses serving multiple surrounding neighborhoods. The city core is an area for mixed use and higher density attached housing Mixed-use nodes are a small collection of retail and surface uses focused on a corner or single block serving the immediate surrounding neighborhood. That's coming straight out from the general plan. That's not me. That's right from the general plan. And this area is right in the heart of that, what that's looking for. The plan appears to meet the minimum requirements for the zone as far as the density. The dwelling units per acre on the note on the site plan is incorrect. It references the number for vertical development. This is a horizontal development, and the maximum dwelling is 30 units per acre. We'll get down to the part that I'll go through this and then we'll pull up how they addressed our comments. We had some concerns about the commercial site plan. Staff did. Staff also felt like the plan appears to meet the minimum requirements for a concept plan. But with the concept plan, while the plan addresses the sensitive areas, the developer went into a little bit more detail, and he provided a geotech engineering study that we'll talk about in just a minute. And the phasing, he has also discussed in his memo. So he addresses the unit count.
What is the phasing?
Phasing is if he's going to build.
No, I mean, what's planned? I mean, like what's going to be first.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I know what it means, but
we intend to do all the site. This is coming from the developer's memo. It's not me. I'm reading from the developer's memo. Yeah, it's right after the staff report.
Okay.
It's number 6.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
It says we intend to do all site work at once and build the vertical within 18 to 24 months. When he's talking vertical there, he's talking the actual building. So they're going to do all the sidewalk or all the site, and then they're going to build the buildings. So there is no phasing from a construction standpoint. They do intend to get phased certificate of occupancy on a few buildings at a time so that they can complete and begin leasing the units. I'll talk about the fire code. They intend to provide the 13D sprinkling system required by the fire department in all units and buildings. One of the sensitive areas that came out in it was a risk of liquefaction, that showed up on the county's website. So they address that. They say, according to the geotechnical engineering study conducted on the site, the risk of liquefaction is low. They intend to build slab on grade 3-story product and will meet any recommended or required soil preparations for the building of this type to meet the seismic code. They talk about a couple other sensitive areas. Our current plan is to begin our development 30 feet from the bank of the stream on the north side. The stream they're referring to is Spring Creek. It runs through the development on the south side of the development. Our plan is to begin development 30 feet from the bank of the stream on the north side and to do no development to the south of the stream. This choice is due primarily to practical costs of developing the south side of the stream. However, by doing so, based upon our conversations with our environmental consultant, we avoid developing the potential sensitive areas around the stream. It also talks about the commercial building, the space shown in the commercial. So this is addressing the commercial site plan that we had concerns with. The space shown in the light orange is the footprint of a single building to be built all at once. The building will be a gray shell and designed to be subdividable in order to sublet to multiple tenants and meet the code requirements for retail space. And this next one is kind of the biggie. In the code, it talks about a common theme. It asks the developer to address the treatment of building mass, materials, and exterior appurtenances. I don't know why I struggle with that word. Appurtenances, sorry. Appurtenances, there we go. I try and break it up is my problem. I have to scrunch it down and say it fast. The property will be designed following many of the concepts of the new urbanism, walkable streets, active public spaces, an emphasis on the human scale. Thus, the townhomes themselves will be at scale that complements the human scale uses, building materials that do the same. Through the use of traditional building materials such as lap siding, shiplap siding, wood-looking siding, brick and/or stucco. Windows, doors, and accent lighting will complement artistic, ornate landscaping and community spaces that will continue the theme and create a holistic approach to a new urbanist community. Building mass will, again, accentuate the human scale and will be primarily 3-story townhomes that are grouped together in 4 to 5 unit buildings using materials to break up the long facades and create more appealing and diverse facade. Roof lines will diversify mass and break up the linear nature of group townhomes while helping to perpetuate the contemporary flair of the community. The use of rhythm with material placement, window and door openings will add to a more vertical proportion to keep the same theme of the project and give each unit individual identity. With the notes that the developer has made, that addressing the concerns that the staff pointed out, we feel like it's time for you to weigh in, and I'm interested to see what you think of the actual development. So unless you have questions, I'll take a seat.
I do. The percentage, does this fall under the new statute that we?
No, they made their application prior to the.
This is really what generated our interest in the open space.
Yep.
Because that would be easy enough to say that's what it's going to be. But if somebody comes along and says, "Oh, I want to put a McDonald's there," that's certainly possible. So that was what really pushed us to look at what we actually required for open space. So, but this is not that, and the builder is saying that they are planning to leave that there. But again, it is what it is.
Yeah. Seems like a very small. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Scarlett. I just want everybody to know how much we appreciate the work that Scarlett puts into this.
Yes.
And the background and knowledge that she has. So thank you. Okay, come on up.
Hi, Adam Paul. Thank you for seeing and hearing this tonight. And I'll also say thank you, Scarlett. She's so helpful and great to work with. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we are excited to develop here in your beautiful community. We have a lot of ties to the community, relatives, and we are excited about this program we're proposing. I guess that most of the folks here tonight weren't that interested in hearing what we had to say, so I'll try and keep it brief. You know, this is a site where we have it up to 30 units per acre density, and we're proposing 10 to 12. So, you know, way under the density allowed, and we think it's a good fit, and that it would serve the community and what the needs are right now with housing. We're open to it being potentially a for sale product eventually, if that is what fits the fits the demand better.
For sale individually or for sale?
For sale as individual townhomes.
Then you'd need a subdivision. You'd need to subdivide the
Yeah, I think that would happen after we built it, and not now. So that's my support of what Scarlett said. And if you have any questions for me, let me know.
I really like the open area over there on the other side, using the pond.
You know, it's, we, every time we walk over there and see all those trees and there's birds and there's a lot of stuff going on there, it's really nice. So we wanted to use that and leave it. It's two things. It's a cost issue. And then it's a beautiful amenity. I mean, I think that people will like to live next to it.
So how about a connection into the next commercial property
The theaters.
there in the south?
To the
west corner?
south, yes, to the south is the theater property, and there is no planned. You mean road connection?
Nope.
What kind of connection?
Walking connection?
Yeah, right now there's no
Bicycle.
walking connection. You'd have to go out and bike around. We wanted to preserve that green space, which is could potentially, we hired the local environmental consultant to look at it. So there's potential wetlands in there. And so let's just stay away from it, leave it nice. Let's leave it, a natural area.
So has the Army Corps been there to look at it?
No, they don't think that the consultant said we don't even recommend that you go to that next step to have the Army.
Because you're far enough away from
We're
it.
far, we're not even touching it. So yeah, I'm far enough away from it.
They're very generous when they say what's wetlands.
What's what?
Yeah,
They're
you know.
very generous, is that you said?
Yeah,
Who is?
for the Army Corps of Engineers, the Macy's property, for example, they've taken pieces.
Oh, have they? Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? Mayor.
The mayor
You gotta
can do
come up.
whatever he wants, right? He can stay seated or.
No, he can't.
Oh, okay.
I'm the chair and I won't let him.
4 words. How big is the dog park? In the south?
Yeah, the question is probably,
Gotta come up.
sorry,
Gotta get it on the
probably
minutes.
about 5,000 square feet on that. But it hasn't been fully designed yet, so we could make it bigger, smaller, maybe bigger. We can.
That's a Chihuahua dog.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And it hasn't been fully to scale designed yet, so we could make it bigger.
Somebody asked a question about connecting to the theaters. I think the residents living there would very much like access to the commercial rather than having to go all the way around.
Drive around is what they would do, as opposed to
Pass on the
walking.
dog park, because we've got 3 dogs, but I'm in the dog business. But when people have dogs, they want to throw a ball, they want to throw a frisbee, 5,000 square feet, you go sailing. on the-
Oh, to be clear, a dog park means it's just for residents only and for them to, when I've designed them in the past, you put seating around it. It's gated and they can do their business there. It's the area that they're required on the property to do their business, so it doesn't get all over the place, because there'll be some folks that just don't want to let their dogs do whatever they want, wherever they want. And this dedicates an area for that. It's not going to be an area for frisbee throwing, things like that. There's just not enough space there for that. Maybe in the middle, up near the barbecue area, we have this kind of open space where we could move the barbecue area down to where the dog park is and make that, that up there in the middle. You could play around with the dog in that space and throw them throw frisbee.
I think a better place for the playground is in the middle, where the kids are surrounded by housing, and it's not visible. Somebody brought this up on the city council. It's not visible to.
Do you know what, Mayor? You need a microphone.
Sorry, I thought I had a big enough microphone. Someone brought up on the council, talked about the kids being, play areas being in the center. And we were talking about another development down south, the other end of the gateway down here. And can't the play area be there so it's not visible from the streets, just so kids are protected? I would consider moving the playground in the middle Barbecue, that's something adults do. Kids don't do barbecue. But then you got kids walking across that street there, and those parents, So we have a part of the city, Brookside, we have a park right in the middle, and it's surrounded by homes all the way around it. The parents that live there love it. That park is part of their background, and this would probably serve the same purpose if that was playground. I mean, you've got, besides barbecue area, you've got grass there as well. So I don't know, I'd have to look at the next parcel, but where that dog park is, it connects to where the theaters are. If the residents here had access, I don't know how it connects or how close it is. I think most people would say that makes a lot of sense. So we've got other parts of the city and say, I mean, we get these questions about how is it going to connect to Zollinger Park, another townhome development. How are we going to connect to kids walking to school, things like that. So
How do people get to the green area? Is there a bridge?
The intention is to have a footpath that sidewalks all running throughout this, and I regret that the architect didn't show the sidewalk that we would have walking along the creek, looking across over. So when you walk around the north side of the creek, you can look over the green space. To get into that green space, it's very thick. It can be wet. It can be. I don't think people will want to be down there. It's something to observe, and so it's not per se get into it because it's so thick and wet and sometimes.
So it's going to be an amenity to look at.
It's just something to walk along, and observe, and to have a little bit of a buffer from the theater at night when sometimes crowds come in and out and make a little bit of noise is really nice for the residents. So that's what we liked about maintaining it as kind of green and open.
Okay, so the blue you're talking about is the creek itself, and that's where the marshy area is, slow moving water. And the green below that, the south side of it, that says natural undeveloped land. That's the part that you don't expect the tenants to use.
Yeah, marshy as well.
Is it marshy as well? Is it green belt?
Do you mind if I go point to it with that?
Be careful.
You can do, there's a screen right in front here, so if you want to point to that.
The mayor will be able to see I'm pointing at.
Yeah, he's blinded.
So it's a little misleading. The stream right now is very, very narrow in this area. It's actually, probably only 10% of that blue area. And then it goes sharply up on the north side to a bank. So this top is, we're calling this side of the blue area, top of the bank here. So it declines very sharp from top of the bank down to the stream here. And on this side, from the stream, from the water, the incline is very gradual on this side. So that's why it ends up being that we can pond here or marshy kind of here, and not it's just bone dry on this side of it. Very, very different characters to the two sides of this stream.
So does it slope down that way?
So
is that why the water is down?
Yeah, I think that's why it slopes this way, and this is more of a, or for lack of a better term, kind of a podium. It's like a higher and drier and flat.
Yeah.
And so walking along, you actually have a view over this in a lot of places down.
So have you thought about or discussed deeding that over to the city as a city park?
I think that would be something we'd be interested in doing if you were interested in that.
It's not up to us. I'm just curious as to.
Yeah.
I mean, I see undeveloped land there, natural undeveloped land. I can't believe that's all Army Corps engineer.
We got the dog park.
No,
I'm not interested in the dog park.
if the city wants to make it a dog park, no.
I didn't suggest that.
A dog park, maybe this is And then this we call park. Obviously, that's not a park. That's a dog area for their, when they're not running around the park and they need to go sit there and have to take their dog to relieve themselves. When property management, we'll have full-time property management on this project. And when full-time property management is responsible for keeping the site, the common area is clean. They like to have an area that's done. That's what the dog park is. Like that. We're talking about that a lot tonight, aren't we? What dogs do.
I have a comment for you about down where the dog park is on the map. As the mayor said, I really think you need to look for some kind of an opening or a gate or something, because kids in that apartment complex is going to go out there, to go to the theaters, to go to the Little Caesars, to go to Macy's. They're not going to go all the way around. So you're either going to have a hole in your fence or you're going to accommodate it, that kind of thing like that. So
I don't know that we'll have a fence, to be honest with you.
But people will wear a path.
Yeah, your trees and shrub will be cleared out.
There's a bit of a, from my, career, it's getting long now, and as I get gray hairs, as we have done so many of these, there's a trade-off between ability to access things and keeping people out. And so the second we open that up to, hey, theater crowd, as you get now, why don't you wander into our project? It would be a big problem for people living there, saying, hey, we're getting people coming in through this. It wasn't intended to be a destination for people. And so,
I agree with you. I don't think you have it where they can drive through there, but I think certainly walking. If there's a bunch of kids there, they're going to do it anyway. But just an idea of thought to keep in mind.
I could barely walk. I couldn't walk across that the other day when I tried to. It was wet and full of trees.
Even in a dry year.
Even in a dry year.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would suggest is to look at your design. You don't know what's going to be next door in the LeGrand Johnson area, and it may be a real advantage to be able to go through there, depending on what they put in there.
That's a good point.
And so, as you look at your design, you may want to think about that.
That space where the dog park is could be a future connector.
You just want to keep that in mind.
And we've thought the same thing. We've talked with them. They don't know what their plans are there yet, but we wanted to leave a little bit of flexibility there. So that could be a future connector where that is down there on the south, where the dog park is being shown.
Probably ought to not call it dog park.
I got to get a different name for that.
You're obviously going to be removing snow from the area. What happens if we get a large amount of snow? Where will that be pushed into?
Great question. At this point,
you can pull that mic toward you.
At this point, these areas here would be snow collector areas. We could probably put some here. There's going to be several areas, because again, that's another thing, when we own a property long term, we want to make that as easy as possible.
What is the green next to the commercial building? Is that light green? Is that?
That's just
lawn? Is it
that's lawn right
cement
now.
or?
Yeah, it's lawn.
I asked that because you got the creek down at the bottom there. And if snow and salt and all that other stuff gets pushed in that area, they'll probably have a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, they won't let you do that.
Yeah, on a good point. On the next, the next level of planning out the site will address, all those detailed items, snow removal, trash. We'll get into this and really get into the details that we need to show and do. But those are all things that we like to think through on every project, just to make it work, and we want to own this and take care of it for many, many years to come, unless it makes more sense to, like I said before, turn it over to HOA and sell units, but we don't intend to do that right now.
One of the things that is not required for you, but something that we have certainly addressed and talked about and are including in our condominium kind of areas are plugins for electric cars.
It's a great idea.
And some bike stations, perhaps.
Great idea.
To have people, we want them to do
So
green things.
yeah, each of these units right now comes with a dedicated 2-car garage. So we could probably, what we do in other markets is we wire a certain amount of those as we're leasing them, a certain amount of them will be wired for charging. And so that's a great, there's so many, it's really coming fast, this electric vehicle thing. And so we'll either, do 10-20% of those right out of the gate that'll accommodate that. And then we can always upgrade them as that demand is needed, because like I said, every unit has a 2-car garage. And a bike, a place for bikes is always a great plan too.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Is there a limit on how much space is to be taken by residential versus the retail or the commercial? That's only in the new statute, right?
No, he's under the 80-20 rule. He can't have, he has to have at least 20%. No one, yeah, at least 20% has to be
retail or commercial.
Well, at least 20% has to be retail or residential under the ordinance that he's under. And he's got 20% for retail in this one. And just to remind you,
I was going to say, you need a mic.
No, you can stay there, Adam, because I'll probably have more questions. Just to remind you, this one is, you'll see the preliminary plat, and then you'll also see the final plat. We won't have you do the construction drawings because we'll keep that in the engineer and the public works director court, but you will see this 2 more times, which is different than normal plans. So you will get to weigh in. You'll see the architecture on the buildings. In the next one, you'll see a lot more detail on the preliminary plat that will answer some of your questions that you're asking tonight. They'll have to address those as part of the application process for the preliminary. This is just to get the conceptual points out there to make sure that you feel okay about it. And I think you've provided very good feedback with the bike stations the charging stations and the bike racks and things like that.
So we're going to vote on this tonight, and then you'll come back with your plan.
So I guess I think if I understand correctly, Scarlett, you're saying this is a concept plan approval. Next is a preliminary plan approval, and then a final plan approval. So we'll be back with more and more details as we go along the process.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we reviewed and vote on the concept plan for Spring Creek townhouses at 265 North Gateway Drive. Prove it. Yeah. Did I say that?
You said reviewed it.
Review. I'll make a motion that we approve the concept plan for Spring Creek Townhouses, a mixed-use development located at 265 North Gateway Drive.
I'll second that.
We have a motion. Robert Perry, a second by Brian Marble. Any additional comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Study item, we have two of them. One is the land use code amendment. Do we have the person tonight?
We do not have the person tonight. I haven't heard from the person, so I think if you want to continue this, we will make
Doesn't
sure
hurt us
that
to
he
continue
knows that he's got to come and present his case. I thought we made that clear, but maybe not. So
Okay,
we'll try again.
yes, stage fright maybe.
Scarlett, has Mr. Beckett been here before for the accessory dwelling unit?
I don't know if Mr. Beckett does have a accessory building on his property that I think he would like to maybe consider converting a portion of that to an accessory dwelling unit. But I don't know the details at all. I don't recall whether I know he's been to meetings here before. I just don't recall if he actually spoke to the accessory dwelling unit or not.
I don't remember in my tenure hearing him.
But I do know he does have a nice accessory building that certainly, and his accessory building meets the code for an accessory building, not necessarily an accessory dwelling unit, but it does meet the code for an accessory building, so.
Thank you, Scarlett.
I propose that we table the land use code development, land use code amendment application for at least one more meeting, so that the individual that would like this amendment can be
we
with
need
us and discuss this.
Do we need a vote on this? Yes. Okay. All right, we have a motion on the table.
Second.
Second by Robert Perry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On ombudsman training, September 8th at 6, it'll be about an hour. Do we need to know anything more about this or just that put it on our schedules?
Yeah, so I gave him those 3 dates that we talked about. That's the date he came up with.
Okay.
The first Monday you guys meet in that month. He said it's only going to be about an hour. He is coming up from Salt Lake. So I think he'd like to do it first off, but it doesn't mean we can't have anything else on the agenda. But I can let you guys know a week, 2 weeks in advance to try to keep that
September 8th is
agenda
a
lighter.
Wednesday.
Mhm.
Can I just ask that when you put dates on here, would you put the date and the date?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, I sent you an email about a training that we did have back past you. I don't remember writing it down, what kind of training it was, but I know we had, it was about an hour.
The video.
Was that it?
We
I
had
can-
a
I can give
training
you-
by Chad. Chad did one for us.
I can give you a date on it.
Was that when the executive staff joined you for a meeting and reviewed the development process and everything? Is that what is that the training you're referring to? Because we did have the ombudsman that night. We had the ombudsman with us and we had the entire executive staff team sit in and.
Let me send you the date. I
Okay.
know I've got it logged in. I usually log in my meetings here, so I
Okay,
may have a little bit more information, but I'll send it to you and see if that qualifies as a training or whatever.
oh, that's a recent one then that you're talking about.
I think it was last year.
Okay. And maybe it was 2 years ago, and because last year we didn't do a lot of that because of the COVID.
Yeah.
So it probably was the one a couple years ago that we did that joint thing. So,
I have a date. I'll just send it to you.
okay.
So what you're talking about is doing that again.
No,
Okay.
counting it as some of our training whoever may have been here or.
But it's likely to, we have to do training every
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
so.
yeah. But
But if
this
it was
could be
good training, no one on here, no one else remembers doing that. Perhaps that's something we ought to review.
And probably if we're going to be individually monitoring our training, that would probably, those dates would help too. Who was here, who was not.
I need to get with you and figure out how we're gonna keep track of that and where we're gonna keep track of it.
I understand your vice chair was keeping track.
Vice chair? Who was that back then?
Kathleen Alder was the vice chair at that
Oh, there you
time.
go.
And then when the vice chair took over, that was a duty that they kept.
Went
That's-
south.
I believe it's the vice chair's responsibility. I can review the minutes if you like.
I am keeping track.
I so you guys,
Thank you.
any emails?
No,
so-
thank you, Ryan.
Well, I think that consistency is important, and Ty, you're gonna be here for a very long time, right?
I hope so.
Not subject to the whims of the mayor or whoever, right? Okay. Just wanted to remind everyone that we still haven't filled. Mayor, do you have any feedback for us on how you're coming with that? Twiddling his thumbs.
You and I should talk. We've talked to 5 candidates.
Right.
Um,
Okay, just let me know when you
And
want.
shortly, we're gonna have another seat open, and who knows, we may have another seat as well. So how's Rowan doing, by the way?
I tried to call him and couldn't get him. I did remind him by email.
Did you know something about him?
Come to the microphone. That is one.
Last Saturday, we found out that he had hit his head and actually cracked it
Yeah.
a little bit.
Oh
So
dear.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. She said, Sister Cecil said she didn't take him to the hospital. She probably should have. She doesn't know if he had a concussion or not. So.
Or was it a fall?
And tonight they did not. I sent an email earlier in the week, but tonight when I called, they did not answer. So that
I'm
concerned
not
me.
sure about.
Okay, just that you know he fell. Okay,
So we ought to revisit over all.
So you and I can
5
just visit
candidates.
about
You and
that?
I can talk,
Okay.
look at their Facebook pages.
That's a pretty good indicator. So
Inside joke. Kathleen looked at one of the candidates' Facebook pages and she didn't like a posting that this person posted, so. I think some of.
well, it was just concerning to me.
Yeah. I think when it comes to candidates, some are really strong when it comes to their specific interest in
Right.
city business and others who have some ideas that are probably not very realistic. We have probably 2 strong candidates and 3. And then we have the issue of
They're willing to serve. but-
geographically, right, we have 5 that are willing to serve. Geographically, they're too close to where everybody else is. So.
It would, when you talk about diversity, I think diversity is good. Lot shapes that, I think lot shapes, it's good to have diversity in lot shapes.
Good to have diversity in
It's not
neighborhoods.
code, though.
Good to have
Oh,
grandparents in neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You don't want all in the house.
Yeah, or all the yard.
So I don't know if I told you this. Just north of where we live, we're at the end of Main Street, is the assisted living center. And there's a lot of old folks there. 1.2 visits per month on average from EMS.
You're talking about the homes in there?
No, I'll get there
Talking
in a
about the
second.
convalescents.
Right. So when that was originally proposed, Scarlett tells the story pretty well. There was huge opposition to assisted living because there was going to be day and night, the ambulances and sirens and all that. That doesn't, they come down our street and they don't.
They don't blow
They're
their,
not.
their
I've
sirens.
never, and we've been there 5 years. The other thing is behind there's 2 senior living
there's two streets. It's called Mountain View
Retirement.
Mountain View Retirement. There are 48 units. There are duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. There's two cul-de-sacs. It is the quietest neighborhood and best kept neighborhood in Providence. One of the residents that live there, occasionally we play racquetball, but apparently the bishop has asked him, Bob Burke's the guy's name, because he is one of the few men that live there, because there's so many widows, that to look out for all the widows. So out of 48 units, I asked one of the board, I forget what his role is. I said, well, how many men are there actually that live in there out of the 48 units? He said 10. So there are 38 widows and 10 couples that live there out of that. How much traffic do you think they generate?
What kind of property is that? Is that a PUD or a, what?
It did come in as a PUD. I can't remember the zoning right off the top of my head. I think it's multifamily residential is how it came in.
It was different than what we have.
Yeah, they have a HOA. That was a tough thing at first to help that HOA. It was kind of an unfortunate situation. I can't remember what happened with the primary person, but there was some kind of a personal thing that happened with the primary developer. And so there was kind of a change in the development. And it was a rough go there for a minute, but we ended up with really quite a nice development back in there. And just a side note, when we're thinking about some of these communities and we talk about that they need to be near major streets and stuff, we get a lot of comments from the people that live in, I just went blank on the name, the one right at Cobblestone.
Yeah.
Cobblestone. They really don't like living next to the major Gateway Drive street. I do think that they're listening to their comments now. They loved it when they were kind of just in a residential neighborhood.
We were at the end of the road.
They were at the end of the road. They were surrounded by a residential neighborhood. And now they've got commercial on the other side. And so I think some of the stereotypes that we've maybe heard and had people talk to us about, I think we need to kind of keep in mind that maybe people really do just want a quiet neighborhood to live in. They don't necessarily care to be right next door to Macy's. So.
Or a bus stop. Charlotte, is it the fact that it's hard getting in and out of Cobblestone, or is it quiet in the middle of Cobblestone? Or
When they come to the gate, there's one entrance and exit.
Yeah, it's going to be busy.
Most of the time, they can only turn right because Gateway Drive is so darn busy.
It's mostly the traffic that they're concerned with.
So if you don't put high density 55 and older up the hill, if you don't put it where they don't want to be in the first place because it's too darn busy, then where do you put it?
What's your question, Nick?
Well, we approved the 100 piece. The developer's going to put in 55 and older, not that many.
20 something.
Okay.
But when the issues come before us for zoning, we can't specify that. I think that's what I hear from so many people.
Because then we would never approve anything because we can always say we don't know what the developer's going to do. And I had a question of Scarlett the last time we had a planning commission meeting. When I had their office, I said, Scarlett, in 30 years, 1 year, how many times have you had a developer show up and say, this is what I'm going to do? And in order to do that, I need this zone. How many times has a developer, as soon as he got zoning done, flipped it and sold the property or built something other than what he said he was going to build? In 30 years? Zero.
But the,
I mean, the implication is they're showing up here to do a bait and switch.
and that's, I think that's the public's understanding. And if I was out there sitting, and I've been there many times, I think that they get, I get what they feel, but we're here for zoning change.
I'll tell you what, after 8 years, I'll tell you what they feel. They don't want any development. I mean, what were the guys saying? You know, when I bought my property and they're on a 10,000 square foot lot, I like the fact that when I look out my backyard window, it was a nice 5 acres of green space.
Good for him.
Right.
But don't we, I do, I think about it.
And I expect
That's gonna happen.
you, on the city council, you on the planning commission, to maintain what I expected to remain when I bought my home 5 years ago.
Well, that's why I bought 2.3 acres.
Bingo.
So that I could have the buffer, because if you move into some place and it belongs to someone else, how can we
How can
expect
you
those
expect
people
my-
not to sell their property?
We also have people that say, well, I've been here 35 years.
And I want it
they
to
don't
stay the
want-
same.
And
Yeah.
when I bought it, this is what was there, and I look out my backyard, that's what I expect to see. I mean, I've heard that dozens of times.
Well, and my understanding is that property is not really up for sale.
What property?
Well, the people said, we want to extend our property,
It's
but it's
a
off the
two-sided,
table.
yeah, it has to.
It's off the table, so that isn't really an argument.
The problem is every neighbor would have to extend their.
I just think it will probably, it's good discussion, but it's not on the agenda at this point.
And we're live streaming at this point, and there is others on, so.
Lay out development, streets, curb, and things like that. There's no lot that's 10,000. You know, oftentimes they're 11 and a half, 12,000 square feet.
Well, we'll see how it all goes.
Well, in the memory of Cecil, Brother Cecil, Ron Cecil, and the thought of him, not the memory, he hasn't passed yet. I would recommend that we close the meeting.
Second.
I would make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.